Good morning.
Good morning.
It's the first episode of Unprocessed and Unfiltered.
I'm loving it. We're doing
So
this.
we're doing it.
We're doing it.
You emailed me yesterday, or
Mhm.
last Friday, you texted me, or whatever. It was really quick, and I said, let's do it. And here we are, and game on. So, so here's the deal. So I said that we have a whole bunch of people joining us right now, Kelly. Just so you know.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, we are now at 30 people and counting. Everyone's flying in. We got
Oh
a
my
got a big
gosh.
morning. Yes. So, okay. I said I was going to bring a cup of coffee.
I have mine.
Okay, but this is not coffee.
What is yours?
It's a tonic.
Hmm.
So my nutritionist friend here will be very happy with it. I am going to just digress for a second. Anybody who is used to me, knows that I have to always digress for a moment. But in this cup is a tonic that I pre-make, and it is turmeric, like actual the
Yep.
root, the fresh turmeric. I get fresh organic turmeric, fresh organic ginger, and yes, I realize that we need to make this affordable for everyone. Like I understand how lucky I am to be able to access these foods. Um, Organic ginger root, and then organic lemon, black pepper. I use some cayenne pepper. I use what else? A couple of other spices, some raw honey. I try and get the kind with the royal jelly in it. And then I put it all through the food processor. So I simmer it up, put it all through the food processor, and I make ice cubes. And then I do about a cup of warm water. So I'm careful because, right, there's a lot of really good stuff in that. And if I nuke it or make it too
Yeah.
hot, I kill all the good stuff. So I warm it up. So I warm the water and then I drop the ice cube in. I let it sit for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, stir it, and put it in the microwave and night for like 30 seconds. And that's what I got. It's my tonic. And then sometimes I put half a fresh lemon in it and then honey. So there's my tonic.
That's pretty amazing. That's what they used to when we were out at Expo West. There was a couple of those companies that had it kind of ready to go, like the shot of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for someone like me, who's who's not going to do that, there really are products out there that have it combined, and they seem to be like the products I looked at were actually really high quality.
Yeah, no, I think yes, I agree. I don't feel like those products haven't quite gotten the buyout that some of the other ones have.
Yeah,
The buyouts by the big companies that's where it
exactly,
goes downhill. Okay,
exactly.
so let's get at it. So
Okay,
we are starting a new series together. And I'm taking this seriously, which I could not because I really like you and we could literally hop on here. And I bet people would join us just for us to talk for 30 minutes in the morning over a cup of coffee. And it'd be really fun. It would sort of be like one of those talk shows that you watch on television. And, please, everybody that's on, put in your comments what you actually want us to do. But here's what I'm thinking. So I want you to talk about yourself a little bit as well, but I want to talk about the purpose of the show. So you are a practicing and entrepreneur in the nutrition space. And you do it for real, right? You don't do the churn and burn type approach, which is a big deal, which is why I'm always a big fan of talking about Kelly's Choice, which is your company. I am over here working with Carter on how we redesign our system and our economy around human outcomes as opposed to cheap calories and monetizing disease. Again, no fault. It's how we built this stuff, right? We industrialized our food system. We created moonshot medicine and decided that we were going to finance it. And now we have that. And so the only way to change it is to systemically redesign it through private industry. We want federal policy and things like that, but the reality is private industry has to step up. So consumers really need to show their latent demand, which we want to try and capture through what we're building, which is why we now have over 20,000 subscribers. And it's unbelievable, right? It's exciting. So anyway, so what we're going to do today is something that through Food is Health that has really struck me on a personal level and a professional level is this concept that we don't really eat, we don't think about nutrient density. We think about eating healthy. And when you talk to people about what that entails, it's generally more that people avoid eating unhealthy, but they're not really eating healthy. And they're two very different versions, right? Nutrient dense and not unhealthy are very different. And I think I realized this. My husband doesn't watch my episodes, thankfully, so he won't get embarrassed. But I realized this with my husband. He eats whatever I cook, but then when I don't cook, he eats not unhealthy. He doesn't, unless I say to him, you really need to add these things together to make it really healthy. He's just looking at it as like, well, that's not bad for me, so I can eat that. So it's two different standards. So I will just make this thesis of the show, which is, and I think there's so much to talk about this, which is
So
the
much.
idea that we've confused foods that are merely obvious harm, right? So the French fries, the burgers, the sweets, the ultra processed, with what foods that are actively creating health. I've gone really deep in this personally the last couple of weeks because I haven't been traveling, and I've been really using AI to challenge that. I'm not going to go into that in this episode, but I just think it's really important because it's really opened my eyes, even, right? So introduce yourself, Kelly. I'm going to see if anybody has jumped in with anything they want to talk about.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Kelly Springer. I'm a registered dietitian by trade. I have my master's in health ed. And I like to say that because I truly am a teacher. I love being a teacher. My entire company is based on education. We do not sell anything but education. And it's been my mission since I was 16 years old to educate people on how to do exactly what Ellen just said. So it's been interesting over this past year to see social media and political people and everyone kind of jumping in this space. And honestly, it's exciting because people are talking about nutrition for the first time. It's been a missed item in health. Even in our local schools, I remember when my girls now are in college, but even just a few years ago, they came up with the pyramid of health at the school, and it said physical health, mental health, and there was no nutrition talked about whatsoever. And I went to school, and I'm like, how can you talk about health without talking about nutrition? How can you talk about mental health without talking about nutrition? And I think that finally people are like, oh, actually, it's the basis of it all. And so it's just exciting for me because I think I was way before my time. I started my company 13 years ago. And, it just, people didn't really get it. And so I was sitting with a gentleman just last night telling him, I said, I have part of the solution, and I'm part of, a giant army of dietitians trying to do this. But, we're part of the solution of truly what you want to do of healthcare versus sick care. And we are talking about how you truly can prevent and reverse chronic disease. And so someone said to me the other day, they said, well, it's just easier to just give the pill. And I said, okay, listen, no one was given the choice. So Ellen, I don't know if I was telling you this story or not, but my mom had day surgery. Did I tell you this?
No.
My mom had day surgery just last Tuesday.
Okay.
So I'm with her in the recovery room, and she gets another person comes into the room that's recovering, and she was probably around 26 years old. And they wheel her in, and her parents come in, and the doctor's talking to her, and she's talking to the doctor, and she's like, I heard that I have fatty liver disease. And he goes, yeah, your elevated liver panel was, it was a little bit elevated, and yeah, we'll take a look at your fat. But he goes, there's a pill for that. And she goes, well, I've been really trying to, eat well. And like, he goes, there's just a pill for that. And I'm sitting there listening to it last Tuesday. And I call my daughter, and she goes, well, that's just the easier way. And I go, no, she was never given the choice. She was never given the choice of education or this is a solution too. She was never given the choice.
So let's use that. Right? Because my mom's the same. Like, let's use this idea, and let's kind of do this walk. We'll call it the walk the Hall of Fame of basically this idea of how do you distinguish a food that sounds healthy from a food that truly nourishes? Vitality, metabolic benefit, versus absence of obvious guilt. Okay. And let's kind of talk about the foods for a minute. So I'm all with you on the pill thing. I think that along with that goes the empty foods that at
Yeah.
least I grew up on, right? So think about it. Rice cakes. Okay. It's not unhealthy, but it's barely food, right? It serves a purpose at times, but like think about the rice cakes, right? Diet soda.
This is
Zero
the
nutrition.
90s. It's the night. It's
And
the
my
90s
mom
fat
lives
free
on it.
craze. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the 90s fat free craze. We're going back to,
Right.
the
Low
love
fat
story.
yogurt,
Yeah.
right? Um, Now we understand that plain Greek yogurt, right, made certain ways. And again, there's a whole chemical element to this, right?
Good.
Toxicity, all that. I'm just gonna focus today on the food piece, right? And like, okay, you're gonna love this one. Iceberg salad with fat free dressing. Do you remember that?
1990s. We had the fat
Yes.
free
Well, I would
category,
say even like
right?
even the
Mhm.
80s, like I'm a 70s, 80s kid, and like that was right. Remember, you'd go to the restaurant or the blue cheese. I remember the blue cheese, the club crackers. You'd get the blue cheese and the club
Every
crackers.
Ellen, every single thing in my house was fat free because my mom was trying to be healthy. She was really, truly trying to be healthy. And that's where, see, okay, this is where it's confusing for people that nutrition is the study of science. And as we learn more, that's why nutrition changes. So I just want to lay that out for everybody because we are based in science. So wherever the science is where we have to teach. So at that time, at the fat free craze, there was a cardiologist back in the 70s who said there's a link between fat and heart disease. They didn't know everything yet. They didn't understand the good fat versus bad. And so it just went out as this blanket statement. So at that time, that's where the fat free craze happened. And that's where all of that came to be. So think about where we are today, and people went the opposite direction and just like putting full fat in and, now like full carnivore meat-up diets, whatever that is. But again, it's like, that's not all the science. And I think that that's where we need to understand that we are evolving in the way of what we know and how the human body works. And we do know that we need to have healthy fats for our metabolism and our
So
bodies.
okay, so let's talk about two things. Do you like how I'm keeping us on task? Like this
Yeah,
is so not Ellen, but I am doing this
we
today.
got it. We got it.
First, I'm going to take a break. We only have half an hour, right? See, Carter and I get on for an hour and a half. I feel like I have just this luxury of time, but we have 30 minutes. So I have a couple people that have put in comments, so I want to get to them.
Okay.
And I think I will. Let's save. This is our first episode, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. I'm just going to read them so people know I'm reading them, but I don't, unless it's something that's like right with what I'm getting ready to jump into, I'm going to save them for the end and I'll save 5 minutes to hit the questions. Okay. So one person, Jane Allen, says, how do we build antioxidants in the body quickly?
Sure.
I need to listen to a recording, hopefully, because I'm traveling now. Thanks. Okay. So that's one. I think that goes right into when we talk about, right, nutrient density. And I want to spend about 5 minutes on what nutrient density looks like. I'm going to kind of hit on one other thing first. We have Maureen Elliott. I love this one. I run a B&B. You are correct. I try not to serve unhealthy. I love this. I feel like some kind of weird talk show host. I love this. Like I need to stop.
I want to be. We are talk show hosts. What are you talking about?
All right, fine. I also cannot watch live. It's right in the middle of breakfast service. Will these be available for repeat viewing? And
Sure.
the answer is yes. We will put them out. She also says, I have cancer, and yes, pills and side effects are my offerings.
Yeah.
So important, right? Like such a good piece.
I love that you said that's your offerings because that, again, what's my other choice?
Yeah. And then Michael Costello weighed in to say it's a little early on the West Coast, but he's here for it. So props to Michael at 6:15 in the morning for still joining us. Okay. So let's talk about two quick things about sort of how we got to where we got. So the first is fortification. I think this is really important because this actually got pointed out to me through what I'm working on with my own health, which is I have some deficiencies and some of the fortification that happens in foods it's actually counterintuitive to what my body needs from bioavailability and from a mineral perspective with what I'm deficient in, which is really interesting. Like that's a whole, because I have an issue with methylation. And
Yep.
so, right. So that's a really interesting piece. And so fortification, we think of it, at least I was taught, oh, we put the stuff in, right? Like we're fortifying it. But the truth is that most of the time it's because we strip all the nutrients out during processing. And then we add synthetic versions back in. So when we talk about enriched and fortified, it's like we took the good stuff out, everything, and then we put what we're calling good stuff back in. But the bioavailability of synthetic nutrients is very different than the bioavailability of those same things in whole food nutrients.
So do you want me to explain this in just 2 seconds to
Well, yeah,
people?
you could actually take a whole minute if you wanted
Okay.
to.
So when you have a whole grain, there's an outside part, that's the bran. Then you have the germ and the endosperm. So the outside part is the fiber. That germ is where all the B vitamins like you're talking about are. And then the rest is like basically a sugar, the endosperm. And so when you have a refined grain, the bran, the fiber is removed, the germ, the B vitamins are removed, and you're just left with the sugar. So then they fortify that back. So that's the difference here. And people don't understand when you have a whole grain versus a refined grain. That's the difference. So that fiber rich source is going to help to go into the body to reduce inflammation. It's going to help to trigger your HDL cholesterol. It's all the good stuff. And then that germ is all those B vitamins and all the nutrients that are there. So that's the difference. But no one's ever taught this is what a whole grain is versus a stripped down refined grain. So
Yep.
they're not the same. They're not apple to apple.
It's also a scale. Like it's
Yeah.
also what I've learned is it's not just black and white. There's a level of that in between, which is really interesting.
That's true because they can say multi-grain and they throw things in there.
Right.
But
But
this is
even how
where,
it's milled. Like I've learned from, because I co-chair the Tufts Food Nutrition Innovation Council. I'm the co-chair of the Food is Health Working Group with Colleen Zammer, who is a vice president at Bay State Milling, and they are an ingredients company, and they even have some consumer direct, some consumer facing products, and their mission is to make really good ingredients. And so, she's taught me that you can actually mill these things. So like we did this big thing on Kraft Power Mac recently. And the reality is you could make the Kraft Power Mac not so much into this bucket of being not unhealthy, right? Like
yeah,
we're kind of talking about, you could actually start to swing it more towards having some nutrient density if you did certain things to it. Now we are getting a big, black mark over all of the enriched. So that's the fortification and enrichment. So then the other piece that's really important, because Carter and I talk a lot. And I know some folks, I've seen some names on here. Part of this is regenerative agriculture and getting nutrient density back into our soil. So the other problem is that through our industrialized farming practices, which really came from the Green Revolution, which interestingly enough was really an effort to solve famine. A lot of folks don't realize is that famine was actually used politically. It was used even from a defense perspective. And so we wanted to make sure that we had no fear of famine, and even globally wanted to see it eradicated. And so we did all of this work on crop genetics. We solved the famine problem, but then we created a nutrient density famine, in essence, that replaced it. And so if you take the same crop label today and you compared it to what it was 50 years ago, the mineral decline is stark. And maybe we should probably do an episode on this. Carter, I should probably do an episode. I don't know if we want to do it on Unprocessed and Unfiltered, although it would be interesting. If you look at the nutrient density of, we didn't have ghost food back there, which now we really have this kind of like idea of ghost food. And nutrient density of food is really a moving target it's completely opaque. There's no transparency there. But Eric Smith with Audacious is changing that. So.
yeah, and I really, I think my eyes were open. One of my favorite books was by Michael Pollan that did Omnivore's Dilemma, and I love that book. I would love to meet that man in person someday. I just love the way that he described and
Me too, by the way.
he educated versus saying you are a bad person. He's like, I'm still gonna on the road maybe get a McDonald's once in a while, but this is what McDonald's is versus this is what regenerative farming is, and this is what the meat looks like over here versus over here. And if anyone has not read that book, I just think it's such a beautiful way that he describes what regenerative farming is. He describes the difference between how the animals, in the grass and everything. It's just such a great way of how he breaks it down. And I don't know. Anyway, I love that book and it really opened my eyes and I love the way that he teaches.
Yep. Yep. I totally agree. Okay. So we've got 7 minutes left.
Okay.
And here's what I suggest. So I'm going to take us to nutrient density.
Okay.
So let's talk about what actual nutrient density looks like in some of these foods. And I think maybe next week we dive into this a little bit more. Those of you that, book name. Yes. Hi, Mike Williams. Good morning.
Omnivore's Dilemma.
So Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. It is a class. It is honestly, Kelly, it's funny. It's one of those books that sort of started me down this path probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I just absolutely love it. It just explains things really well.
Yeah. Okay, so I think, and I want people to weigh in on this for anybody that's here, is my proposal is let's talk about nutrient density and food examples that are nutrient dense. And then how about next week we come with, and people can submit their foods if they want. This will be a fun thing, is we will come and talk about nutrient density of different foods versus foods that maybe we eat that we think are okay. They're not unhealthy. They're just staple foods. And maybe we break some of that down, right? I don't know. That would be my suggestion. So
I think this is a really good conversation. So
so how about I hit a couple of foods now?
Okay.
And then why don't you take Maureen's question around, well, let's hit the kind of the two questions. So
Sure.
I'm just going to throw out a couple of foods and then I'm going to let you take the rest and then we'll close it in the last minute.
Great.
So, and everybody has to just bear with us. It's our first week. So we're trying to do speed doing this. So, okay. All right. So liver, right? I love this. So I kind of prepped for this a little bit and I love this kind of the verbiage I have here. So liver, arguably one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet, but it's culturally abandoned. Right?
My grandfather grew up on liver.
Right. And it's like when you go into what would really, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying that you have to eat meat. I am going to be agnostic to all health choices because I'm going to say this right now, and I probably should say it every episode. I do not believe it is my role or even a clinician's role to tell somebody exactly what they should eat in a very specific manner. I think people have to learn on a personal level what works for their bodies. Is everybody is different. And I think personalized N of one is where we need to get to and scale rather than, this one person told me this one thing and it's going to make everything better for me. It on paper and in the research studies that were out there, it probably did, but the research is a randomized control trial. Everybody doesn't have the same result, right?
My company is called Kelly's Choice. It is your choice on what you feed yourself. So we're just here to educate. So it will be your choice at the end of the day.
Correct.
But we are here to educate.
So sardines, right? They're a wonder food. Omega-3s, calcium, B12, selenium, cheap, ignored. Eggs, demonized for decades, now quietly having a resurgence. Dark leafy greens. I mean, this is, I'm like hammering myself every day over this right now, trying to get the folate. Mushrooms, they're interesting depending on which one you have, right? There's some really good nutrition in certain mushrooms. Again, it's kind of like you take wheat, this particular, totally different, right? So why don't we use this for an opportunity to hit Maureen and Jane here? And if anybody wants to throw one last comment on what they want to hear next week, if what I said is okay or anything. So Jane wants to know how to build antioxidants in the body quickly.
Okay. So antioxidants are, you're going to get a variety from different colors, first of all. So as you're saying, dark leafy greens. So all the colors of the rainbow are going to bring in those antioxidants. Antioxidants are going to neutralize these nasty little things called free radicals. So they actually give the free radical the missing electron, and that's why they work. But something as simple as, like you said, the incredible edible egg also has some powerful antioxidants in it, which you wouldn't think because you're thinking of it more in the way of vegetables and fruits. So there's a lot of different foods that you can get those antioxidants from, but we're now learning about the variety.
So
So
how what would you tell her? Eat really brightly colored foods?
absolutely, and mix it up. A great cheap way to do it is frozen. Frozen is just as good as fresh. And so you can get a huge variety in frozen vegetables. Again, just as good as fresh, a third of the cost. And so you can get way more variety in getting in the way of frozen, because you could just pick and pull from different pieces, and they're not going to go bad. So that's my little
And
tip for the day.
how about any tips for Maureen having an Airbnb where she's serving
Oh
people
yeah.
breakfast and then having cancer? Any nuggets you want to throw out there before we close her down?
Absolutely. Again, going back to that incredible edible egg, can't say enough about it. There's so much nutrients and density there. Also, you're saying Greek yogurt is going to have those probiotics. We're going to talk probably in the next couple of episodes about probiotics and digestive health. We got to build that back up again. So having a variety of protein and fiber-rich sources is going to be the key for your guests and yourself.
Psyllium husk. It's my new best friend, psyllium husk.
Psyllium husk.
Psyllium husk. Just going to throw that out there. Okay. So nobody has added any comments here, but I am going to, I will say this. Those that are looking for really bright colored vegetables delivered to your doorstep, I will every episode probably at least mention once this man, which is Bob Jones and his Chef's Garden. You can order his boxes. It's like $100 and you get the box delivered to your door. And his stuff is just, I'll have to show the veggie mask on here one day of what I had to go to a black tie with mask. So closing it down. All right. So this is what we're going to focus on. Stop asking whether food is bad. Start asking whether it's worth eating. And the question isn't whether the food will hurt you. It's whether it will help you.
Yeah.
What do you want to add?
No, I do think we need to start talking about what to eat versus what not to eat. And so I think changing this conversation around is going to be extremely impactful for the audience.
All right. Well, good. Well, Maureen is going to submit a recipe to us to get some feedback.
Okay.
All right. So, and yes, thank you. Have a great day. And now somebody's hungry.
Me too. I'm going to eat breakfast as well.
All right. Well, this has been super fun, Kelly Springer. I'm Ellen Brown with my co-host, Kelly Springer, on the first ever episode of Unprocessed and Unfiltered. Until next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.